Welcome to the fifth of a 7-part series on magnetic workflows. In this series, I'm going to explain the different parts of workflows, how they fit together, and ultimately design and implement a simple workflow. By the end of this series, I hope that you'll have a better understanding of how this feature works and how to best use it to your company's advantage. In this video, I'm going to explain what an action is, how it works, and how you can instruct it to do exactly what you want it to do. I will show you where actions occur in the workflow lifecycle and explain how multiple actions can exist together on a single workflow. So what is an action? If a trigger and conditions represent the if this happens part, then actions represent the then do that part of the paradigm. Actions are discrete bits of logic that workflows will execute when a trigger has fired and all of its conditions have been satisfied. Actions are flexible and can help you reassign tasks, change a project status, or send an in-app notification to a user. We'll be adding more actions all the time. Actions execute completely independently from one another. While they share information from the trigger and the actor, actions do not share information between each other. If one action fails, this should not stop other actions from succeeding. Because of this, the order of your actions does not matter. To add an action, a trigger must be selected. Once a trigger is selected, click the plus icon next to actions to add a new action row. To start, the action row will give you two inputs, a drop-down box and a text box. The text box is an optional name you can assign to an action, while the drop-down box lists all possible actions. We're going to use our actions to create a task. When an action type is selected, all of the required fields for that action will appear. These fields must be provided. If they are not, the action will fail. In this example, I must have a task name, and I must have a project ID in order to create that task. If you have not watched the previous video, Conditions and Variables, I would advise you to do so now. Actions use variables in the exact same way that conditions do. For this action, I want the task name to be new task plus the name of the user who changed the job status. If you paid attention during our conditions video, this should be quite simple. First, I'll enter new task directly into the text box. And then I'll click the spanner icon and open up the inject page. Actor full name is available, so we will select and inject that. Now we need the job or opportunity. Since it was a task completion that fired off this trigger, we can directly access the job ID via the injector. We'll select the injector, and we'll look for ID, and select job ID, the unique identifier of the job of this task. We'll inject that there. Right now, our action is ready to fire as we've provided data for both required fields. Many actions, however, have a wealth of fields available. If there are optional fields available, there will be a drop-down at the top of the action box reading Toggle Optional Field. Let's say we want to create this task with a specific status and a specific end date. We'll click Toggle Optional Field, find Status, and click it. We'll do the same for end date. Optional fields can be shown or hidden in this manner. We're going to set the status of the created task to newly created. And the end date to the same end date of the original task's job. So now, if a user named Bob Ross creates a job due on the 1st of January, this action will create a task in that job also due on the 1st of January in the newly created status. with the name new task Bob Ross. So now, if a user named Bob Ross completes a task that's due on the 1st of January, this action will create another task in that job, also due on the 1st of January, in the newly created status with the name new task Bob Ross. As explained above, workflows can have more than one action. These actions always operate independently, but you can clone an existing action if you want to do something similar to save you the effort. To clone an action, click the clone icon in the top right of the action box. As you can see, a new identical action has been created with the name copy of action 1. We could change this however we wanted, but I'm just going to remove it by clicking the X icon instead. Finally, if an action is taking a bit too much space up in your view, you can collapse it with this icon. And that's it. That's how you create an action. This concludes the introduction to actions. Stick around for the next video, in which we will design and build our very own workflow from start to finish.